Yes. Thank you so much. Okay, welcome everybody. One of the things that we got from introducing one another is that we're all here because we have frustration, shall we say. We have questions, we have concerns. What is going on? You know, the world seems to be topsy-turvy, upside down. We're right. What used to be right is now wrong. What used to be wrong is now right. And like, what the heck's going on? You know, and I don't care. You know, you can look at politics. You can look at elementary, or not the elementary, but the educational system, the judicial system. It doesn't matter where you look. The news media, everything is just like, what the heck is going on? And so I think that what you're going to learn here today is just what is going on, and it'll help calm the frustrations that you have. It'll help to move you basically to see the light, and we can move forward, because we're not needing to battle one another. I mean, there's Republicans, there's Democrats, there's liberals, there's conservatives, and there's a reason why we have those divisive divisions within us. And so we're going to get some answers with that today. So, having said that, I'm Briegel, as I mentioned earlier, and so what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about some perspectives, we're going to talk about some principles, we're going to talk about foundational points, okay? A point of reference, okay? And if we don't have a point of reference, then we can be confused, we can be misled, misguided. So anyway, when we start looking at things, what the heck is going on? Well, there's a reason that we have everything, the frustration. We have all been told to go and vote to get our individuals who we feel would be the best person, male or female, for the job. And then we wonder why they maybe didn't win when we thought they were definitely going to get in. There's all kinds of questions and confusions that we have. And so let's back up a little bit, because we need to understand some history. You know, we just said the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation under God, with justice and liberty for all. And we say, well, okay, we can be one nation under God, but we also have to go back to looking at a reference point, go back to the founding of our country. Now, right now, we're coming up to the 250th anniversary of the founding of our country, okay? And so we start looking at that and look at that reference point. We have, the reference point is the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, and the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, okay? So that is our reference point. And so we need to say, okay, fine, that's our reference point, that's where we came from. And also, we say the Republic. We've all said that over and over and over again, Republic. But yet we hear a lot of people saying we're a democracy. And so we can say, no, we're not a democracy, we are a republic. However, we are a democracy. And you'll get clear on what I mean by that as we continue on. So, we were founded as a republic, okay? We are led to believe that we are a republic, even though they're changing the name and saying it's a democracy. So we have to say, okay, what happened? Why did that happen? And so when we go back and start looking at the founding principle, we also need to say, you know, the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident. We are created by our Creator, and we have been certain unalienable rights, okay? The rights that we have are given to us from the Creator, not from the government, okay? The Bill of Rights wasn't something that gave us permission to have these things. It's from the Creator, not the government. And so we need to understand that we are, you know, one nation under God. And if we don't practice that way, if we don't think that way, then we're going to be lost and battered around in an ocean with a big storm. The boat's going to be rocked all over the place. So we start looking at that. Why did our forefathers, if you will, come to the United States? everybody was leaving the tyrannical persecution of Christians. And so they came over to the United States as Christians so that they could practice religious freedom. So we need to understand that we are founded as a Christian nation, okay? That's first and foremost.
I'm not sure.
So that is important to have that as our founding principle. That's a point. If we are a Christian nation, I found it interesting
My husband didn't
that
order that.
God,
I don't think so.
okay, is the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's 3 in 1. I find it also interesting that our point of reference is the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. It's 3 in 1 is our founding point. So if we can stay focused on that and not lose sight of that, then we get to the point of what happened. Why are we the way we are? Why are we in such discord? Okay? So let's move on and start looking at some history. Okay? We need to understand that if we are one nation under God, that there's many other gods, there's many other spirits that are in this world. Okay? And so those other spirits, those other gods don't like Christians. I mean, everybody attacks Christians. So in my perspective, if everybody's attacking me, what about the QR codes? Why is everybody attacking me? It's because when you get too close with the truth to all these other things, which I'll just generally classify as the devil, okay, then we can get lost. And we know that we're on the right path if we are getting attacked, okay? So we have to maintain that faith that we are on the right path. So, what happened? Well, I remember reading when the Declaration of Independence was signed, and people were leaving the room after they signed it. And this woman asked Benjamin Franklin as he was coming out, what did you give us? And he said, you gave you a republic if you can keep it. And so I would suggest that what we're experiencing right now is that we did not keep the republic, okay? So we have to ask what happened, why did that happen, and what's that all about? So let's start looking at the history. The Republic of the United States, we had these evil forces trying to break it down. We had bankers that were trying to be in control and in charge. They created the Revolutionary War. We thought it was about slavery, but they created it because they wanted to disrupt everything. So what happened here is that there were states, southern states, that seceded from the Union. So they said, so they claimed. But once you're a member state in the Union of States, that's permanent, that's forever. You can't secede, you can't leave or anything. So what happened is that they seceded, which meant they did not send any of the representatives. Representatives, senators, Congress was not having the ability to have a quorum, so they couldn't function. And so what Lincoln did, President Lincoln did, was he saw that Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, if Congress cannot function, then he, as president, can run administratively through his office of the president of the country. So that's what he did. Now, everybody, the evil, if you will, saw that that's a good thing because now there's somebody controlling and it's not we the people, okay? And so what happened is that when the revolutionary, or not the revolution, but when the when the Civil War was over, he wanted to put it back as the people started to fill, the representatives and senators started to come back, we had a quorum, he wanted to put that back under the proper republic. Well, the evil didn't want that, they didn't like that, so guess what they did to Lincoln? Bang, okay? They took him out, and then it all started to change. And what they did in 1871, you need to understand, if this my hand here, if you pay attention, this is the Constitution of the United States that we were founded upon. So what they did is that they took that Constitution, and it's just like a mirror, and they took the same exact Constitution that we were founded under, and they put it in a corporate structure. They formed a corporation. A corporation is housed in the 10-mile area in Washington, D.C. Okay, so that is the residing governmental base, if you will, of the corporation. So we can get all frustrated because we know the Constitution, we know the Bill of Rights, we know the amendments, and we say, why are we not getting this? So we fight, we go into court. You go into court for under your constitutional rights, you can do all that stuff, and guess what? You lose. Because they don't care, because they're operating under this corporate structure, which is no longer we the people, it is the corporate structure. So they're telling us what to do. They tell the lawyers what to do. They tell the judges what to do. They tell the school system what to do. They are telling us all this stuff. So all this wacky stuff that we're all upset and confused about is coming from that. Now, just a little bit more background before I continue on about Lori and I, okay? We have been battling this corporate structure in the health field. As chiropractors, we have been battling against the tyranny and, I will say, outright lies of the medical system for years. The whole thing is now we're starting to realize that all of these things that we had thought, all these things we've been told, all these conspiracy theories are now starting to come true. So they're not conspiracy theories anymore. It's actual truth. And so the healthcare system is no different than that. So shots and drugs and all this stuff, we've been fighting that. We also had a little situation with one of these fictitious, if you will, fraudulent government agencies called the IRS. You know, all these little three-letter agencies that we have in the corporate structure. And so we did battle with that. And we learned a lot. We lost a lot of money in the process of trying to fight with all the legal structures. And what we learned from that is that the IRS is not even part of the government, okay? It's a fictitious, it's a corporate structure that's totally unrelated to our government. The IRS, the Federal Reserve, all these things, General Island was mentioned earlier, so all that came out. But the end result of that is that we beat the IRS in federal district court. And so we did that without an attorney because we didn't go through the processes, the normal processes that was set up. That's another story for another time. Also, we've been involved highly in Republican politics decades ago. Okay, I was involved on the executive branch of the county. I was also in the 6th district, which is what we were at that point in time. Or I think we're the 9th district now. So in the 6th district, I was also on the state committee. So I was highly involved with that. I also, for 3 years, was the chair of our county conventions here in Cherokee County. And one of the young ladies at that time was the secretary for the convention. Some of you might have known her, Jenny Beth, okay? And she, along with her, not that time, but later, her then husband Lee, they formed the Tea Party, okay? And along with the Tea Party, I was still involved with politics, and we knew a lot of people. You know, Linda Parker is involved with the Tea Party. Charlie Spurr. You know, there's people that were here as they moved into Cherokee County. I was related to them from that. So there's a lot of background that I've had here doing things in Cherokee County. So coming back to where we are today, that gave me a lot of information to dig and find and look at things. So now we go back to what happened when the corporate structure was founded. And we come back and we start looking at why and what's the answer. What can we do about it? How can we move forward? I'm gonna suggest that I don't care who we elect and how good a person they are, what their desires are, and what they say, if they're controlled by the not we the people, but by the corporate structure, then they are put in that position. Okay, they're not people that are supporting the Constitution of the Republic. And so that's why we're all frustrated, that's why we're battling. And so what's the answer to that? Well, we have to find something other than that. So this Constitution, which was taken over here, okay, that we've been under all this time, when they did that, they did not get rid of this, because our government, under the Constitution, is put in place at the consent of the governed. We, the people, are the governed that we put in place. If we don't give consent to what they're doing, we can get rid of them. We can get rid of the people that are doing the things without our consent. So we start looking at that. Now, because they have the corporate structure, we don't have consent. They never told us what they were doing. It was basically fraudulently set up. It was a fraud. Anybody who understands anything about fraud, once the fraud is exposed, then everything that was done based on that fraud is gone. Fraud vitiates everything. Okay, so all of these problems that we have, they're just gonna go away now that the truth is starting to come out. Okay? So then the question comes, well, how can we do this? What can we do? Okay? So, any of the presidents that tried to right the ship throughout history, along with Lincoln, there was a couple others that came. Woodrow Wilson was assassinated because he was trying to flip things over. So JFK was huge, trying to put things over. He was assassinated. And so they've taken out everybody. But the military, and there's conservative people that have been working diligently since Lincoln was assassinated. What can we do? How can we do this? How can we stop this? And everybody who got in the way of, shall we say, deep state, got assassinated, eliminated, they got trashed, all this kind of stuff. So Kennedy was shot, and this group, mostly generals, colonels in the military, they said, enough is enough, let's start working on a solid plan. And they kept working on it, working on it, working on it. And one day, well, actually, George H. Bush, when he was president, he signed something, I think a treaty or something with whatever the document was, with the United Nations, basically that if the Republic, because the Republic was never disbanded, it was just, they took all of the senators and stuff and just put them in here, and nobody knew the difference. Okay, so he said with this document that if the Republic is not stood up by April 1st, 2010, then the Republic will never be able to be stood up, and we would now be under the UN. We would not have any kind of a republic or anything that we thought. We would not be free. We would be slaves under the United Nations. So when we start looking at that, we say, okay, what's going to happen? Well, there was a gentleman by the name of James Timothy Turner that was teaching constitutional doctrines and information to people. He had a radio station. So he put all this stuff out. He'd been doing this for, I think, maybe 10 years or so. And then he also, because of that, he was in communication with certain people, high generals in the military. And so they approached him one time because they wanted him to teach the Constitution and do some things, and they told him what they were looking at doing, because we need to restore the Republic. So he went out into the mountains, stayed in the cabin for 3 days, prayed and fasted for the 3 days. In the evening of that third day, it was downloaded to him. He just got a pad, he started writing and writing and writing and writing. And when the dawn broke in the morning, he stopped writing. I think it was like 13 pages or whatever. 17 pages. Thank you. 17 pages he had written, and he says, well, this is interesting. So he took it to his military friend and said, what about this. And so military man says, well, let me take it back and look at it. I think a couple of days later, he got back in touch with Tim, as we referred to him, and he said, where did you get this? He says, I got it from God. It was just downloaded to me. And so he says, well, I think, and we think, this can actually work. So at that point in time, this was in 2008 now, and so he started looking at what can he do. He started talking, as he was still going around, teaching constitutional things, he started talking about his plan. And so what happened is that when they really started to focus on doing the plan that was written out, in 10 months' time, the whole country was, as we refer to it, re-inhabited the republic. In other words, the original Constitution, you had all the senators and everything, plus what happened in the meantime, once the federal was corporate, all of the states, they had to take their state constitution and put that under a corporate structure. So we've been under corporate structures forever. None of us alive today have ever experienced what our founding fathers and what God wanted for us was to be self-governing, okay? So when that happened, everything was done, and here's the thing, if you don't think God has a play in any of this stuff, remember George H. Bush said that April 1st, 2010, the republic would be no more? Well, everything was done, all the documents filled out, every state, everybody, it was all done, it was all right, all the legal stuff. It was given to the Hague and the Universal Postal Service, all the places needed to be done. There was 132 countries that acknowledged this re-inhabited republic as the true government of the United States. And that was all done and completed March 31st of 2010. Like the day before we would have lost everything. So now they continued getting information out. Well, Obama's in office, and Obama is part of the whole deep state and the corporate structure. He didn't like that, so James Timothy Turner was arrested. And he was it 2023 when he got out?
2020, it was 12/12/24.
Okay, 2024.
Well, that's when they gave him his commutation. He was actually released in 22.
Oh, okay. So but he still mustn't, he can't talk about this stuff because he's a danger to the state. So anyway, what happened when he was arrested in 2012 was that the republic, the re-inhabited republic kind of scattered, okay, which was the intent, is to scatter. And so, because people were afraid, well, we don't want to get arrested, we don't want to have this stuff. However, it's been coming back. So what we are doing right now, the reason you're here today is that we are repopulating the already re-inhabited republic. So what does that mean? What does that mean for you? How can that affect our future? Well, the thing is, when the Revolutionary War was fought, we did it with guns and muskets and pitchforks. Some of them went to battle with pitchforks, and because we need to get rid of this tyranny. Well, that doesn't work today, okay? Legally, and God, one nation under God, we have to maintain that sovereignty, but what we the people are is every person, regardless of race, color, creed, sex, it doesn't matter what you are, we are all one, we are all united, okay? And we need to stay with that concept. So as we start to repopulate the re-inhabited, then in order for us to realize how is that happening, just like I think Jody mentioned earlier, that when Trump was inaugurated, is that we're turning this not one administration to another, not one party to another, but we're restoring this party to you, we the people. So we need to understand that under God, we the people, we have authority and autonomy and control over the government, not the other way around. But here, this Constitution, the corporate structure, has control over us. So Trump's mission, along with the military, the put him into office, basically, they asked him to run, okay? They supported him, so when he won in 2016, he's been working with the military. He's been the commander-in-chief from that day, continuing. Biden was just part of the show, if you will, part of the revealing, part of the waking up process. He's been the commander-in-chief all through, okay, since he was first placed into office. Now, his mission, very strategically, very purposefully, is to deconstruct the corporate structure, draining their financial wells, finding out the people who are against us, people that are, this evil has infiltrated every part of the government. And so they're working for the deep state, for the corporate structure. So once he deconstructs everything, and I think we can see that as crazy as getting right now, the more craziness what's happening is that they are falling down. And once it's done, things are gonna change just like this. Now this is the crucial point. This is why you're here. This is why we want you to be part of this movement. Because we need to be able to explain to other people what's going on so that they can understand this, okay? And join us. Not that they have to do anything. I mean, there are certain things that need to be done. Some of us want to do those things. We would love to have you help us do those things. But we really just need to help get this information out so you can be part of the understanding and understand that you are we the people. So when it's all deconstructed, when Trump is done and the military's done with that, it's not like now we're free, okay? Because they have to, the military and Trump need to be able to hand the country back to something. The re-inhabited republic is a governing body that they can hand it to. And so at that point in time, then there will be elections, there'll be paper ballots, there'll be one day only elections. All of these things are gonna be restored back to kind of the way it was before everything took out. So right now, there's positions that we are filling in the county, in the state, in the country, and so there was some terminology, verbiage that was used, people mentioned things, so explain that a little bit further now, we can understand. So we need to have this government in place, basically with placeholders, okay? So Terry is our placeholder for the governor right now of the republic. And so when we get all these placeholders, and Karen is the Secretary of State, the interim Secretary of State, but once we get our state stood up, as the term came, then we will actually have elections for the state to choose who desires and who we want to have be that placeholder as the governor. We might choose Terry, maybe she doesn't want to do it anymore, and somebody else wants to do it. But whatever it is, we will have elections at that point in time, and then the military and Trump will be able to hand the country back to we the people, we the Republic of the United States. So that's important to understand, because if we the people don't understand that we have authority and autonomy over everybody, then it doesn't matter. It matters not, because the evil people, many of them are going to be gone, but the evil people are still going to be wanting to do that. They want the power, they want to do these things, they want to create divisiveness, they want to take a black person and a white person, they want us fighting and battling with one another. That's ridiculous. We are both one with the Creator, we're the same. And I love you. I love you for being here. So, Darren actually did he was the DJ for we had a renewal of our vows at 45, so he was the DJ. It was beautiful. So, anyway, that's an aside. So we need you. We'd love for you to join with us. I'm going to hand out, everybody can have one when they leave, but it talks a little bit about things. It also talks, there's a website where you can go. It's the national website, but you can go on there. We'd ask you to register. Once you've registered, then you'll get information from us. You'll be able to see things on the website. It's a lot of good information. So we're not in battle with the current structure, and we need to keep you know, right now we've got elections and stuff, we need to continue doing those things. We can't fight constitutionally against the corporate structure. Now, we need to stay in that realm until all this takes place. So, that's the grand and glorious plan. We've asked each and every one of you to consider, if you're not already, becoming members. We'll give you some information. And we're here to answer any questions afterwards. But now I would like to introduce to you, to say a few words, is our current interim governor for the United States, who she has already mentioned, or not the United States, but for Georgia. I'm pushing her, I'm elevating you, dear. So, yeah, the current governor, interim governor for the state of Georgia. And also, as she said, Tim Turner's niece, so.